Oh my God, Madison. What is that ugly thing? My sister Jessica's voice cut through the birthday chatter like a knife. She was staring at the small wooden box in my hands, her perfectly manicured finger pointing at it like it was something disgusting. Seriously, who gave you that piece of junk? The entire party fell silent. 20 people all staring at me holding what looked like an old, beat-up jewelry box. My grandmother's final gift to me, delivered by her lawyer just that morning. Jessica threw her head back and laughed, that cruel laugh she'd perfected since we were kids. I can't believe someone thought that trash was worth wrapping. I felt my cheeks burn with embarrassment as everyone started whispering. What I didn't know was that this ugly thing would change my life forever, and Jessica's mockery would cost her everything she thought she deserved. My name is Madison Clark, and I turned 30 years old on a rainy Tuesday in Portland, Oregon. I should have been celebrating, but instead, I was trying not to cry while my sister made fun of the last gift my grandmother would ever give me. Let me back up and tell you how we got here. My grandmother, Nana Rose, had raised me and Jessica after our parents died in a car accident when I was 8, and Jessica was 6. Rose was our father's mother, a quiet woman who worked double shifts at a diner to keep us fed and clothed. She wasn't wealthy by any stretch of the imagination, but she loved us fiercely. Jessica, being the younger one, had always been the baby of the family. Everyone cooed over her blonde curls and big blue eyes. I was the responsible one, the one who helped with homework and made sure Jessica got to school on time. Rose appreciated my help, but Jessica got the attention. Growing up, this dynamic followed us everywhere. Jessica was the cheerleader, the prom queen, the one who dated the quarterback. I was the honor roll student who worked part-time at the local bookstore to help with household expenses. Jessica got the new clothes and the cute car for her 16th birthday. I got Rose's old Honda when I turned 18, grateful just to have transportation. After high school, Jessica went to a fancy college on a partial scholarship and family loans. I went to community college and then transferred to Portland State, working my way through both schools. Jessica studied communications and party planning. I studied accounting because it was practical and because someone in the family needed to understand money. After college, Jessica moved to Seattle and got a job at an event planning company. She lived in a trendy apartment and posted Instagram photos of her exciting life. I stayed in Portland, got certified as a CPA, and worked for a small firm helping local businesses with their taxes and bookkeeping. Not glamorous, but steady. Rose was proud of both of us, but in different ways. She bragged about Jessica's social life and her beautiful apartment. She quietly praised my work ethic and my kindness to my clients. I knew she worried about money constantly, so I started sending her $200 a month as soon as I could afford it. Just to help with groceries and utilities, Jessica sent flowers on Mother's Day and Christmas cards with glittery signatures. Rose never complained about the difference in our contributions. She just smiled when I'd come over to fix her computer or help her organize her medications. She'd make me tea and tell me stories about her childhood, about my dad when he was young, about how proud she was that I was so responsible. "You're going to be just fine in life, Madison," she'd say. "You have something special inside you. Don't let anyone make you forget that." I thought she was just being a loving grandmother. I had no idea how prophetic those words would be. When Rose was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer at 78, everything changed. Jessica flew in from Seattle for the initial doctor's appointment, crying dramatically in the hospital waiting room. But when it came to the actual caregiving, the doctor visits, the medication management, the daily support Rose needed, Jessica always had an excuse. "I can't take time off work right now, Madison. You understand, right? You're so much better at this stuff anyway." So I became Rose's primary caregiver while working full-time. I took her to chemotherapy appointments, managed her medications, helped her with grocery shopping and cleaning. Jessica visited twice during the entire 6-month battle, both times bringing expensive flowers and staying for exactly one afternoon before flying back to her important life in Seattle. Rose never criticized Jessica for her absence. She just squeezed my hand during the tough treatments and whispered, "Thank you for being here, sweetheart. I don't know what I'd do without you." The night before Rose died, she called me to her bedside. She was weak but lucid, her eyes still sharp despite the pain medication. "Madison, I need to tell you something important," she whispered. "In my bedroom closet, there's a small wooden box on the top shelf. It belonged to my grandmother, then my mother, then me. I want you to have it." "Nana, you don't need to worry about that right now," I said, stroking her gray hair. "Listen to me," she said with more strength than I'd heard in weeks. "That box is special, very special. Don't let anyone else touch it. It's yours, and only yours. Promise me." "I promise, Nana." She smiled then, the first real smile I'd seen in months. "Good girl. You've always been my good girl." Rose passed away peacefully the next morning while I held her hand. Jessica arrived 4 hours later, still in her business suit from catching the earliest flight. She cried beautifully at the funeral, accepting condolences from neighbors who barely knew her, while I sat quietly in the front row, exhausted from months of caregiving and numb from grief. After the funeral, we went back to Rose's small house to start going through her belongings. Jessica immediately claimed the few pieces of jewelry Rose had, the china set that had been our great-grandmother's, and the antique sewing machine Rose had loved. "I think these would mean more to me," Jessica said, not even looking at me as she loaded items into boxes. "I was always Nana's little princess, you know. She'd want me to have her special things." I didn't argue. I was too tired to fight, and honestly, I didn't care about material possessions right then. I just wanted to honor Rose's memory and move on with my life. But I did remember the wooden box. While Jessica was distracted packing up the living room, I slipped into Rose's bedroom and found the closet. On the top shelf, just as she'd said, was a small wooden box. It was maybe 6 inches square and 4 inches tall, made of dark wood that looked old and worn. The surface had intricate carvings that were hard to make out due to age and wear. It wasn't pretty by modern standards. It looked like something you might find at a garage sale for $5. But Rose had specifically asked me to have it, so I tucked it into my purse without mentioning it to Jessica. The lawyer handling Rose's estate was a kind older man named Harold Peterson. He'd helped Rose update her will a few months before she died, and he asked Jessica and me to come to his office the following week to go over everything. The will was simple. Rose left her house to both Jessica and me equally, along with her modest savings account of about $8,000. Her personal belongings were to be divided between us as we saw fit. There was one specific item mentioned. "There's a note here," Harold said, adjusting his glasses. Rose wanted to make sure Madison received a wooden box from her bedroom closet. She was very specific about this. Jessica rolled her eyes. "A wooden box? That's weird. What's in it?" "I don't know," Harold admitted. "Rose just said it was important that Madison have it, and that it should be given to her on her 30th birthday. "Her 30th birthday?" I asked, confused. "That's not for another 3 months." "Rose was very specific about the timing," Harold said gently. "She said Madison would understand when the time was right. Until then, I'm to keep the box in my office safe." Jessica laughed. Typical Nana, being all mysterious about some old junk. Probably has her old love letters in it or something sentimental like that. I felt a flutter of anticipation mixed with grief. Rose had planned this, had thought about my birthday even while she was dying. Whatever was in that box, it meant something to her. The next 3 months passed in a blur of estate settling and life reorganizing. Jessica and I decided to sell Rose's house and split the proceeds. The housing market in Portland was good, and we ended up with about $40,000 each after expenses. Jessica immediately started talking about using hers for a down payment on a condo in Seattle. I put mine in savings, not sure what I wanted to do next. I was still processing the grief and trying to figure out how to move forward without Rose in my life. My 30th birthday fell on a Tuesday, but Jessica insisted we celebrate that weekend. She flew down from Seattle and organized a party at my apartment, inviting all my friends and coworkers. I appreciated the effort, even though I wasn't really in a party mood. "You need to snap out of this funk," Jessica told me while setting up decorations. "Nana wouldn't want you moping around forever. She'd want you to celebrate and have fun." She was probably right. Rose had always encouraged me to enjoy life more, to not be so serious all the time. So I agreed to the party, invited everyone Jessica suggested, and tried to get into a celebratory mood. The party was nice. My co-workers from the accounting firm came, along with some friends from college and neighbors I'd gotten to know over the years. Jessica played hostess, charming everyone with stories about our childhood and making sure everyone had drinks and food. I was starting to actually enjoy myself when Harold Peterson arrived. I'd invited him because he'd been so kind during the estate process, and Rose had always spoken fondly of him. He was carrying a small wrapped package. "Madison," he said warmly, "I have something for you from Rose. She wanted you to have this on your 30th birthday." Everyone gathered around as I took the package. It was small and surprisingly heavy for its size. I unwrapped it carefully, revealing the wooden box I'd seen in Rose's closet months earlier. It looked even more worn and unremarkable than I remembered. The wood was dark with age, the carved patterns barely visible. It had a simple metal clasp that looked tarnished and old. "What is it?" someone asked. "It was my grandmother's," I said, turning the box over in my hands. "She wanted me to have it." That's when Jessica spoke up, her voice carrying across the room with that familiar mocking tone. "Oh my God, Madison, what is that ugly thing?" The conversation stopped. Everyone turned to look at Jessica, then at me, then at the box in my hands. "Seriously, who gave you that piece of junk?" Jessica continued, her voice getting louder and more dramatic. "It looks like something from a thrift store clearance bin." I felt my face flush with embarrassment. "Jessica, it was Nana's. She specifically wanted me to have it." "But why?" Jessica laughed, and it wasn't a nice laugh. "I mean, look at it. It's falling apart. The wood is all beat up and gross. I can't believe someone thought that trash was worth wrapping." Harold Peterson cleared his throat uncomfortably. Rose was very specific that Madison should have this box. She seemed to think it was quite important. Jessica waved her hand dismissively. "Important? It's a piece of junk." "Honestly, Madison, I'm embarrassed for you. Everyone's going to think your grandmother didn't care enough to leave you anything decent." The room was completely silent now. I could feel everyone's eyes on me, could sense their discomfort with Jessica's cruelty. My best friend Sarah stepped forward like she was going to say something, but I shook my head slightly. I didn't want to make a scene at my own birthday party. "It's fine," I said quietly, clutching the box to my chest. "I think it's beautiful because it was Nana's." Jessica rolled her eyes. "Oh, please, don't be so sentimental. It's okay to admit when something is ugly, Madison. You don't have to pretend to like it just because Nana gave it to you." Harold Peterson looked uncomfortable, but didn't say anything. The party gradually resumed, but the mood was different. People were more subdued, and I caught several guests giving Jessica disapproving looks. After everyone left, Jessica helped me clean up, chattering about the party like nothing had happened. "That was fun, wasn't it?" she said, washing dishes. "I think everyone had a good time. Sorry about that awkward moment with the box thing. I was just being honest." You know I always tell you the truth. I didn't respond. I was tired of Jessica's version of honesty, which always seemed to involve putting me down in front of other people. You're not seriously upset about that, are you? Jessica continued. I mean, you have to admit it's not exactly a showstopper of a gift. Poor Nana probably didn't have money for anything nice. Jessica, stop, I said firmly. Just stop. She looked genuinely surprised. Stop what? I'm just saying, you're being cruel. Again. Nana loved me, and she wanted me to have this box. That makes it precious to me, regardless of what it looks like. Jessica sighed dramatically. Fine, whatever. Keep your ugly box. I just think you deserve better than some old junk, that's all. After Jessica went back to her hotel, I sat alone in my apartment holding the wooden box. It was heavier than it looked, and when I shook it gently, I could hear something moving inside. But the clasp seemed to be stuck. Or maybe it was locked somehow. I tried for an hour to open it, but nothing worked. The clasp wouldn't budge, and I didn't want to force it and risk breaking whatever was inside. Finally, I gave up and put the box on my dresser, deciding to take it to someone who might know how to open antique boxes without damaging them. The next morning, Jessica stopped by before her flight back to Seattle. I've been thinking about yesterday, she said, and maybe I was a little harsh about the box. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. It's okay, I said, though it really wasn't. I just worry about you sometimes, you know? You're so sentimental about everything. Not everything from Nana has to be a precious keepsake. Sometimes old stuff is just old stuff. I nodded, not wanting to start another argument before she left. Anyway, I have some exciting news, Jessica continued, brightening. I got promoted at work. I'm now a senior event coordinator, and they're giving me a huge raise. I'm going to start looking at those condos I showed you. That's great, Jess. Congratulations. Thanks. And hey, if you ever want to get rid of that box, I'm sure there's a Goodwill somewhere that would take it. After she left, I sat staring at the wooden box for a long time. Jessica's words echoed in my head. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was being too sentimental. Maybe it really was just an old piece of junk that Rose had saved for some reason. But then I remembered her words. That box is special. Very special. Don't let anyone else touch it. Rose had been many things, but she wasn't someone who attached importance to worthless objects. If she said the box was special, there had to be a reason. That afternoon, I took the box to an antique shop downtown called Treasures Past. The owner, an elderly man named Frank Morrison, had been in business for 40 years and had a reputation for knowing about unusual items. Interesting piece, Frank said, examining the box carefully under a magnifying glass. This wood looks like it could be quite old. The carving style is unusual too. Mind if I ask where you got it? It belonged to my grandmother. Her family had it for several generations, I think. Frank nodded, still studying the box. The clasp is definitely stuck, but I can see why. This isn't just a regular latch. There's some kind of mechanism here that I'm not familiar with. Almost like a puzzle box. A puzzle box? Yeah, they were popular in certain parts of the world centuries ago. The idea was that you had to know the secret to opening them. Usually involved pressing certain parts in a specific sequence. Frank spent another 20 minutes examining the box, trying different combinations of pressure points and movements. Finally, something clicked, and the lid popped open slightly. There we go, he said with satisfaction. Took me a while to figure out the sequence, but these old craftsmen were clever. I held my breath as Frank lifted the lid completely. Inside, nestled in faded red velvet, were several items that made my heart skip a beat. There was a small leather journal tied with a ribbon, a folded piece of paper that looked like a letter, and most surprisingly, a small cloth bag that clinked softly when Frank lifted it. May I? Frank asked, gesturing to the cloth bag. I nodded, too stunned to speak. Frank carefully opened the bag and poured the contents into his palm. My eyes widened as I saw what looked like small, glittering stones. "Oh my," Frank whispered. "Oh my goodness." "What is it?" I asked, though part of me was already beginning to suspect. "These look like gemstones," Frank said, his voice excited. "I'm not an expert in jewelry, but these look like they could be quite valuable. This one here," he pointed to a deep red stone about the size of a grape, "looks like it could be a ruby, and these clear ones might be diamonds." I felt dizzy. "Are you sure?" "I'm not certain without proper testing, but the way they're cutting the light." "Madison, you need to take these to a certified jeweler immediately. If I'm right about what these are, this little bag could be worth more than my entire shop." Frank carefully returned the stones to the bag, then handed me the journal and letter. "You should probably read these too. They might explain where the stones came from." I took the items with shaking hands. "Frank, if these are real, what kind of value are we talking about?" Frank shook his head. "I honestly don't know, but that red stone alone, if it's a natural ruby of that size and clarity, could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe more." I almost dropped the box. "Take everything to Morrison and Associates downtown," Frank continued. "They're certified gemologists and they're honest. Tell them I sent you." "And Madison?" "Yes?" "Don't tell anyone about this until you know for sure what you have. Word gets out about valuable stones, and you might find yourself with problems you don't need." I thanked Frank and carefully packed everything back into the box. My hands were trembling as I drove home, the wooden box sitting on the passenger seat like it contained a live bomb. In my apartment, I sat at my kitchen table and opened the leather journal. The pages were yellowed with age, and the handwriting was in faded ink, but still readable. It was written by someone named Catherine Rose Morrison, my great-great-grandmother, I realized. The journal told an incredible story. Catherine had been married to a man named James Morrison, who had made his fortune in the gold rush of the 1850s. But James hadn't just found gold. He'd also discovered a cache of precious stones in a mine he'd purchased in Colorado. According to Catherine's journal, James had been paranoid about banks and safety deposit boxes. He'd had the stones cut and polished by a jeweler in San Francisco, but then he'd hidden them, telling Catherine that someday they would provide security for their family's future. James had commissioned the wooden puzzle box from a craftsman in Chinatown, specifically designed so that only family members who knew the secret could open it. He'd taught the secret to Catherine, who had taught it to their daughter, who had passed it down through the generations. The journal described how the family had been forced to hide the existence of the stones during various economic hardships. During the Great Depression, they'd lived modestly while sitting on a fortune, because selling the stones would have attracted too much attention and possibly put them in danger. Catherine wrote about teaching her daughter the secret of the box and how important it was that the stones stay hidden until the family truly needed them, or until someone came along who would be worthy of the responsibility. The final entry in the journal was in different handwriting. My grandmother's. "Madison," it read, "if you're reading this, then the box has finally found its way to you. I've known about these stones my whole life, but I never felt like the right person to use them. I lived simply and was happy that way. But you, my dear granddaughter, you have the wisdom and the heart to handle this responsibility. Use these stones to build the life you deserve. You've always put others first. Always been the responsible one. Now it's time to put yourself first. Love, Nana Rose." Tears streamed down my face as I read her words. Then I opened the folded letter, which was more recent and in Rose's familiar handwriting. "My dearest Madison," it began, "I'm writing this while you're at work, just a few weeks after my diagnosis. I know I don't have much time left, and there are things I need you to know. The stones in this box have been in our family for over 170 years. I've had them appraised several times over the years, always by different jewelers in different cities, so no one would know the full scope of what we have. The last appraisal was done 3 years ago, and the total value was estimated at just over $2 million. I never used them because I never needed to. Your monthly contributions helped me live comfortably, and I was happy with my simple life. But I've watched you struggle, working so hard and getting treated so poorly by Jessica and others who don't appreciate your worth. These stones are yours now. All of them. Use them wisely. Invest in yourself. Buy a house. Start a business. Travel the world. Whatever makes you happy. You've earned this, Madison. You've been taking care of everyone else your whole life. Now let these stones take care of you. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for having good fortune. You deserve every bit of happiness these stones can bring you. And don't let Jessica or anyone else convince you to share them. She's had advantages her whole life that you never had. This is yours alone. I love you more than words can say, and I'm so proud of the woman you've become. Forever yours, Nana Rose. P.S. The secret to opening the box is to press the 4 corner carvings in the order of our birthdays. Yours, mine, your father's, and your mother's. I taught your father when he was young, but he never needed to use it. Now it's your turn. I sat in stunned silence for a long time, reading and rereading both letters. $2 million. The wooden box that Jessica had mocked as trash contained enough money to change my entire life. The next morning, I took the box to Morrison & Associates, the jewelry firm Frank had recommended. I was nervous walking into the elegant showroom, but the owner, Patricia Morrison, was kind and professional. "Frank Morrison called me yesterday," she said. "He's my uncle, by the way. He said you might have some stones that need evaluating." I carefully removed the cloth bag from the box and handed it to Patricia. She examined each stone under various lights and magnifying devices, occasionally making notes on a pad. After about an hour, she looked up at me with wide eyes. "Miss Clark, do you know what you have here?" "My grandmother thought they might be valuable," I said carefully. Patricia nodded slowly. "These are natural gemstones of exceptional quality. This ruby alone," she held up the large red stone, "is one of the finest I've ever seen. No heat treatment, no synthetic elements, perfect clarity. I'd need to send it to our lab for official certification, but I'd estimate its value at somewhere between $800,000 and $1.2 million. My legs went weak. For just that one stone? Just that one stone. The diamonds are also natural and beautifully cut, probably late 1800s workmanship. The sapphires are equally impressive. Miss Clark, this collection is worth at least $2.5 million, possibly more." I started crying right there in the jewelry store. Patricia handed me tissues and poured me a glass of water. "Are you all right? I know it's overwhelming." "My sister called them trash," I sobbed. "She made fun of the box in front of everyone at my birthday party. She said my grandmother didn't care enough to leave me anything decent." Patricia's expression hardened. "Your sister sounds like someone who doesn't understand the difference between value and price. These stones are priceless family heirlooms. The box itself is probably worth several $1,000s as an antique." Over the next week, Patricia arranged for official certifications of all the stones. The final appraisal came in at $8 million. I took a week off work to process everything. I couldn't concentrate on tax returns and bookkeeping when my entire world had been turned upside down. I had gone from being a struggling CPA to being worth nearly $3 million overnight. The first thing I did was quit my job. Not dramatically and not immediately, but I gave my boss 4 weeks' notice and explained that I'd inherited some money and wanted to explore other opportunities. He was disappointed to lose me, but understanding. The second thing I did was call a financial advisor. Patricia Morrison recommended someone she trusted, a woman named Claire Davidson who specialized in helping people manage sudden wealth. The most important thing, Claire told me during our first meeting, is not to make any major decisions quickly. You've had a life-changing windfall, and you need time to adjust and plan carefully. I took her advice. I didn't buy a mansion or a luxury car. I didn't quit working entirely. Instead, I moved into a nicer apartment, bought some new clothes, and started thinking about what I really wanted to do with my life. What I wanted was to help people the way Rose had been helped by her family's foresight. I wanted to use my accounting skills and my new resources to make a difference. I decided to start a nonprofit organization that would provide financial literacy education and small business loans to women in challenging situations. I called it the Rose Morrison Foundation, in honor of my grandmother and her family legacy. I also decided not to tell Jessica about the stones right away. I wanted to get my own life settled first. And frankly, I was still hurt by her behavior at my birthday party. But Jessica found out anyway, about 3 months after the appraisal. I was having lunch with my friend Sarah when my phone rang. It was Jessica, and she was screaming. Madison, what the hell is going on? I just got a call from cousin Mike in California. He said someone told him you started some foundation and you're worth millions of dollars? That's not true, right? Right? I sighed. I'd been dreading this conversation. Jessica, can we talk about this in person? I can fly up to Seattle this weekend. No, we're talking about it right now. Is it true? Do you have millions of dollars? It's complicated. It's not complicated. Either you do or you don't. Where did you get millions of dollars, Madison? I took a deep breath. The wooden box. The one you made fun of at my birthday party. It had gemstones in it worth about $2.8 million. The line went completely silent for about 30 seconds. What did you just say? Jessica's voice was barely a whisper. Nana's box contained a collection of gemstones that had been in our family for over a century. She left them to me. You're lying? I'm not lying, Jessica. I had them appraised by a certified gemologist. The box you called trash contained nearly $3 million worth of rubies, diamonds, and sapphires. I could hear Jessica breathing heavily on the other end of the line. That's impossible, she said finally. Nana was poor. She worked at a diner her whole life. She lived in that tiny house and drove that beat-up car. She couldn't have had millions of dollars worth of anything. She didn't know about them until she was an adult, I explained. They were hidden by our great-great-grandmother during the gold rush. Each generation kept the secret and passed it down. Nana decided I should have them. She decided you should have them. Jessica's voice was getting shrill. Why you? Why not both of us? Why not me? I don't know, Jessica. Maybe because I was the one who took care of her. Maybe because I was the one who was there when she was dying. Maybe because you called her final gift to me trash in front of 20 people. I didn't know, Jessica screamed. I didn't know there were millions of dollars in that stupid box. If I had known, I never would have said those things. But you did say them. You humiliated me at my own birthday party because you thought the gift wasn't expensive enough. What does that say about you as a person? Jessica was crying now. Madison, please. You have to share them with me. I'm your sister. Family is supposed to stick together. Like how you stuck with me when Nana was dying? Like how you stuck with me when I was working 2 jobs to pay for community college? Like how you stuck with me when I was taking care of everything while you lived your glamorous life in Seattle? That's not fair. Isn't it? Jessica, you've spent your entire life taking the easy path while I did the hard work. Nana saw that. She knew who she could trust with this responsibility. Responsibility? It's just money, Madison. It's not like you have to do anything special with it. But that was exactly wrong, and it proved that Jessica didn't understand what the stones really represented. "Jessica, I have to go. I'll call you later when you've calmed down." "Don't you hang up on me. Madison, I swear to God, if you hang up on me." I hung up. Jessica tried calling back immediately, but I turned off my phone. I needed time to think. Over the next few days, Jessica left dozens of voicemails, each one more desperate than the last. She alternated between fury, pleading, and trying to guilt me into sharing the inheritance. "Madison, I can't believe you're being so selfish about this. Nana loved both of us equally. She would want us to share. I've been looking at condos and I put a deposit down thinking I could count on you to help me. You can't just leave me hanging like this." I talked to a lawyer and he said I might have grounds to contest the will. I don't want to do that, but you're forcing me to consider it. Please call me back. I'm your sister. We can work this out. Finally, after a week of avoiding her calls, I agreed to meet Jessica in person. She flew down to Portland and we met at a restaurant near the airport. Jessica looked terrible. Her usually perfect appearance was disheveled, her eyes were red from crying, and she'd clearly lost weight. "Madison, thank God," she said, grabbing my hands across the table. "I've been going crazy. We need to figure out how to handle this situation." "What situation?" I asked. "The money situation, the inheritance situation, how we're going to split everything fairly." I pulled my hands away. "Jessica, there's nothing to split. Nana left the stones to me, specifically to me. But that's not right. She wouldn't have left you millions of dollars and left me nothing. She loved us both." "She did love us both. But she made a choice about who she trusted with this responsibility." Jessica's face hardened. "Responsibility? Stop calling it that. It's money, Madison. And I deserve half of it." "Why?" "Because I'm her granddaughter too. Because we're sisters. Because it's not fair for you to have everything and me to have nothing." "Jessica, you didn't have nothing. You had a college education that was paid for by family loans. You had a career. You had freedom to live your life however you wanted because I was the one taking care of Nana. I didn't ask you to do that." "No, you didn't. You just expected me to do it while you lived your life in Seattle." Jessica started crying. "Madison, I'm in trouble. I took out loans to put a deposit on a condo because I thought I could count on some of Nana's money. If you don't help me, I'm going to lose everything." I felt a familiar pang of guilt, the same feeling I'd had my whole life when Jessica was in trouble. But then I thought about Rose's letter, about how she'd specifically told me not to let anyone make me feel guilty for my good fortune. "I'm sorry you're in financial trouble," I said carefully, "but that's not my responsibility." "Not your responsibility? I'm your sister. And when I needed help putting myself through college, where were you? When I needed help taking care of Nana, where were you? When I was working every weekend to make ends meet, where were you?" "That's different." "How is it different?" "Because I couldn't help with those things. I had my own life to worry about. And now I have my own life to worry about." Jessica stared at me for a long moment. "You've changed, Madison. You used to care about family. You used to put other people first." "I spent 30 years putting other people first. Maybe it's time I put myself first for once." "So that's it? You're just going to keep all that money for yourself and let me lose everything?" I thought about it for a moment. "Jessica, I'll loan you $10,000 to help with your condo situation, but that's it. And it's a loan, not a gift. You'll need to pay it back." Jessica's face lit up. "10,000? Madison, that's not enough. The condo I want costs 10,000, I repeated. "Take it or leave it." Jessica argued for another hour, trying every manipulation tactic she'd perfected over the years. She cried, she threatened, she made promises about how she'd change if I just helped her this once, but I held firm. Finally, she accepted the $10,000 loan, though she made it clear she wasn't happy about it. "I can't believe you're doing this to me," she said as we walked to our cars. "After everything we've been through together. After all the years of being sisters. You're choosing money over family." "I'm not choosing money over family," I said. "I'm choosing to honor Nana's wishes and use this gift the way she intended." "And how is that?" "To build a life I'm proud of. To help other people the way she helped me. To stop letting people take advantage of my kindness." Jessica got in her rental car and drove away without saying goodbye. Over the next year, my life transformed completely. I used some of the money to buy a beautiful house in the hills outside Portland, with a view of the mountains and space for a home office. I invested most of the remainder conservatively, generating enough income that I'd never have to worry about money again. But more importantly, I threw myself into building the Rose Morrison Foundation. We provided financial literacy classes for women transitioning out of difficult situations, leaving abusive relationships, coming out of addiction recovery, aging out of foster care. We also offered small business loans and mentorship for women wanting to start their own companies. The work was incredibly fulfilling. I was using my accounting skills, my inheritance, and my life experience to make a real difference in people's lives. Every woman we helped reminded me of why Rose had trusted me with this responsibility. Jessica and I barely spoke during that first year. She made the minimum payments on her loan, but our conversations were brief and cold. She'd found a cheaper condo and seemed to be managing financially, but she made it clear she still felt I'd treated her unfairly. Then, about 18 months after the revelation about the stones, Jessica called me with big news. "Madison, I'm engaged," she announced, sounding happier than I'd heard her in years. "Congratulations," I said, genuinely pleased for her. "Who's the lucky guy?" His name was Robert Chen, and he was a successful tech entrepreneur in Seattle. They'd met at one of Jessica's events, and apparently it had been love at first sight. "He's amazing, Madison. He's kind and funny and successful, and he doesn't care about my financial problems or any of that drama from last year." "I'm happy for you, Jess. You deserve someone wonderful." "Thanks. And Madison, I owe you an apology. I've been thinking a lot about everything that happened, and I realize I was wrong to expect you to share Nana's gift. She left it to you for a reason, and I should have respected that." I was surprised by her maturity. "Thank you for saying that. I was hurt and scared about money, and I took it out on you. That wasn't fair. You were right about everything. You did take care of Nana. You did sacrifice for our family, and you deserved that inheritance." "I appreciate you saying that, Jessica. It means a lot. Can we start over? I miss having my sister in my life." I thought about it. Jessica seemed genuinely changed, and I missed her too. I'd like that. Over the next few months, Jessica and I slowly rebuilt our relationship. She visited Portland several times, and I went up to Seattle to meet Robert, who was indeed wonderful. He was successful in his own right and didn't seem interested in my money at all. Jessica seemed happier and more mature than I'd ever seen her. She was planning a modest wedding and talking about wanting to start a family soon. She'd also been promoted again at work and was doing well professionally. "I think almost losing everything last year was good for me," she told me during one visit. "It made me realize what's really important." I was proud of the growth she'd shown and grateful to have my sister back in my life. The wedding was beautiful. Jessica looked radiant, and Robert clearly adored her. During her maid of honor speech, I talked about how proud I was of the woman Jessica had become and how happy I was that she'd found someone who appreciated her. After the wedding, as we were cleaning up, Jessica pulled me aside. "Madison, I need to tell you something," she said, looking nervous. "What is it?" "I never actually apologized for what I said about Nana's box at your birthday party. I apologized for everything else, but not for that specific thing. And I need to." Because it was the cruelest thing I've ever done. I nodded, waiting. I was jealous, she continued. I was jealous that Nana had given you something special, even though I thought it was worthless. I was jealous that everyone could see how much she loved you, so I tried to make you feel bad about it, and that was terrible. Why are you telling me this now? Because I never want to be that person again. I never want to be someone who tears down the people I love because I'm insecure. And I wanted you to know that even before we found out about the stones, I knew I was wrong to mock Nana's gift to you. I hugged her tightly. Thank you for saying that. It really hurt when you did that. I know. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. That night, I felt like I finally had my sister back for real. 3 years later, Jessica and Robert had their first baby, a little girl they named Rose. I was honored that they chose Nana's name, and I was thrilled to become an aunt. When little Rose was born, I set up a trust fund for her education, funded with some of the investment income from my inheritance. I didn't tell Jessica about it. I wanted it to be a surprise when Rose was older. The Rose Morrison Foundation had grown beyond anything I'd imagined. We'd helped over 500 women start small businesses, provided financial literacy education to thousands more, and had been recognized by the state as one of the most effective nonprofits in Oregon. I'd also met someone special. David was a social worker who'd brought several clients to our programs. He was kind, thoughtful, and completely unimpressed by my money. He loved me for who I was, not what I had. On my 33rd birthday, exactly 3 years after that humiliating party where Jessica had mocked Nana's gift, I threw a celebration at my house. Jessica and Robert were there with baby Rose, along with all the friends who'd become like family to me through the foundation work. As we were cutting the cake, I looked around at all the faces of people I loved and who loved me back. I thought about Rose and her wisdom in knowing exactly who to trust with her family's secret. I want to make a toast, I said, raising my glass. 3 years ago, I received a gift that changed my life, not just because of its monetary value, but because of what it represented. It represented trust, love, and the belief that I was capable of handling great responsibility. I looked at Jessica, who was holding baby Rose, and smiling at me with genuine affection. That gift taught me that sometimes the most valuable things in life don't look like much on the surface. Sometimes they look like old wooden boxes or quiet gestures of love, or people who show up when you need them most. Everyone raised their glasses. To hidden treasures, I said, and to having the wisdom to recognize them when we find them. To hidden treasures, everyone echoed. Later that night, after everyone had gone home, I sat in my study looking at the wooden box, which now held Rose's letters and journal. The stones had been sold and invested, but the box itself remained precious to me. I thought about Jessica's cruelty that night 3 years ago, how she'd called Nana's gift trash and humiliated me in front of everyone. At the time, it had been devastating. But now I could see that it had served a purpose. If Jessica had recognized the box's potential value, if she'd been kind and supportive, she might have expected to share in the inheritance. She might have felt entitled to half of everything. Instead, her cruelty had proven exactly why Rose had been right to trust the stones to me alone. Rose had known that I would face challenges and mockery. She'd known that some people wouldn't understand the true value of what she was giving me, but she'd also known that I had the strength and wisdom to handle both the responsibility and the criticism. The wooden box that Jessica had called trash had indeed contained treasure. Not just the stones, but the lesson that real value isn't always visible on the surface. Sometimes the most precious gifts come in humble packaging, given by people who love us enough to trust us with their most valuable possessions. Jessica never knew how close she'd come to sharing in the inheritance, and she never needed to know. Her mockery had cost her millions of dollars, but more importantly, It had revealed her character in a way that justified Rose's decision. I forgave Jessica for her cruelty, and I was genuinely happy that we'd rebuilt our relationship. But I never forgot the lesson of that night. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them. And when someone trusts you with something precious, prove yourself worthy of that trust. The wooden box sat on my desk as a daily reminder of both lessons. Hidden treasures are everywhere, but only those with wisdom can recognize them. And sometimes, the most valuable thing you can do is prove someone's faith in you was justified. Rose had seen something special in me when I couldn't see it in myself. The wooden box and its contents had given me the means to build the life I'd always dreamed of. But more than that, they'd given me the confidence to believe I deserved that life. And that, more than any amount of money, was the real treasure hidden in Rose's humble wooden box.